Hey, good afternoon, friends. Today is Tuesday, September the 17th, 2024, and the time now is 2:51 p.m. So, last Friday in the D.R.C., that is the Democratic Republic of the Congo, 3 Americans were sentenced to death for their participation in a recent coup, a failed coup in the D.R.C. Congo. Now, many in Africa, or many people of African descent or origin, do have conflicting or contradictory perspective in terms of the willingness and the ability to contradict what is coming out of the United States or the West, in terms of how Africa see what is happening in the Congo. Congo has been going through a lot, whether we are talking about the transatlantic slave trade or slavery, the death of about 15, 20 to 25 million Congolese as a result of the brutality of people such as Leopold II of Belgium, the aftermath of the assassination of Congo's first prime minister, Patrice Lumumba, the installment of Mobutu, and the aftermath of that. Now, the people of Congo have been experiencing a lot to the point where in recent times, it is said that over 5 million people have died in the recent or the ongoing genocide in Congo. With this being the case, you have a failed coup in Congo where U.S. citizens, 3 U.S. citizens, and also citizens of Belgium, the United Kingdom, and so on, participated in the failed coup in the Congo. Now, on Friday, about 37 men were sentenced to death, including 3 Americans. My thing here is, I do believe that these 3 Americans are not going to be executed. I do believe they are going to return to the United States. And these are the reasons why. Yes, we can say that the United States is rich and powerful, and it does have influence in Africa and around the world. But also, given that we are in an election year in the United States, election season, the execution of these guys will mean defeat for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, okay, their administration, given the defeat that they have been experiencing in Ukraine and in the Middle East with the situation of Israel bombarding the Gaza and West Bank region, which now many are blaming the United States and terming the United States as the enabler of Israel. With all these, the United States cannot take in or cannot experience or allow an American or Americans, in this case, 3 of them, to be executed on foreign lands, especially in the weakest of the foreign lands, in this case, Africa, the Congo, D.R.C. Congo. Yes, the United States is rich and powerful, but the United States is not going to bombard the Congo. What I think the United States is going to do under Joe Biden and even Kamala Harris, I do believe now they are working with other African countries or leaders to try to secure the release of these guys or to delay the sentence, which means the sentences are not going to be done anytime soon prior to the election. Because if that is the case, then Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, this election is over. Donald Trump is going to win easily. However, I also think that they are not going to execute these guys. What the Americans are going to do, I believe, is to try to appeal the sentence and try to work through some diplomatic channel or channels with other African leaders, especially prominent African leaders in the region, to come up with a deal where they are able to secure these guys' release. And if they're able to do that, it means that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden can claim victories or victory for having, quote unquote, released 3 Americans, prevented their execution on foreign land. So, yes, I do believe, as much as we can also argue that they may try to prevent their execution to happen now and delay the execution, I do think that the execution is not going to go on. These Americans are going to be released. I do believe that as of now, Joe Biden, his administration, and other prominent American leaders and international leaders are basically running the clock. They are using all their influence or influences to secure the release of these Americans, especially given the divide in international relations and the defeat that even Europe could get at the hands of Donald Trump. If Donald Trump wins this election, Europe is already saying they don't want Donald Trump. At least the European leaders, the European elites, they are frightened of Donald Trump. So they are going to secure the release of these guys. So once again, I do believe, and I'm going to repeat, that these three Americans who were sentenced on Friday in the Congo, the D.R.C. Congo, will not be executed. As much as, once again, I'm going to repeat, that many will argue that the Americans will try to have the sentence of these guys basically delayed until after the election. As much as that is a plausible argument, I think that the Americans are not going for that. The Americans are going to try to secure the release of these guys, at least before the presidential election. However, I think if the release happens, the release is going to happen before the next presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. However, that is if Donald Trump agrees to debate Kamala Harris. Now, the reason why I think if the release of these three Americans in the Congo happens, it could happen before the presidential election, but also before the next presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, should Donald Trump agrees to debate Kamala Harris, is that the release itself is going to give Kamala Harris and Joe Biden props. It is going to give them victory in a world and in a time, at a time in global relations when the United States is taking beating all over the world in terms of information and in terms of diplomacy. Now, should these guys are released, Kamala Harris will basically have a gotcha aha moment against Donald Trump, where she will have to go to the debate and bragging about the American or the Joe Biden's diplomatic activities around the world, and brag and boast about the Joe Biden administration, including Kamala Harris, secure the release of three Americans, preventing them from being executed on foreign soil. So that is what I think is going to happen. I think the Biden administration with Kamala Harris are doing as much as they can do right now to prevent an October surprise. So the whole idea of October surprise in the United States is the idea of an event happening in October, at least mid to late October, which can then impact or influence the election on a positive note for one candidate against another, or influence the election negatively for the candidate who is unlucky. In this case, let's assume these guys who were sentenced were executed anytime between now to the election. It's over for Kamala Harris. She is not going to win. Because in this case, Donald Trump can argue, look, you cannot even prevent the sentencing, the execution of three Americans on foreign soil, in Africa for that matter, let alone trying to run America. And Donald Trump will basically argue what he has been arguing, that Kamala Harris is weak in terms of diplomacy or in terms of making deals around the world, and that foreign leaders will laugh at her and take advantage of her. But also, I think that even the Trump group, we should not be surprised if things are in play by the Trump group to try to make sure these Americans continue to face difficulty in the D.R.C. Congo, so as to have Joe Biden look bad, Kamala Harris look bad, and Kamala Harris losing the election. Now, I'm not saying that member of this group, the Trump group, is doing as much as they can to have these 3 Americans executed in the D.R.C. Congo. I'm not saying that's what they are planning to do. But given the divisiveness in the American political system, where it is all about dog eat dog and winning the next election, I would not be surprised if folks are out there trying to have Americans executed around the world as a means to win this election. Because this election is going terrible. It is bad in terms of information, public policy, and so on. Now, my friends, I want to hear what you think, and please tell me what you think. But most importantly, I want to thank you for being a member of the Echoing Voice community, and I want to thank you a lot for watching the Echoing Voice. Peace.